What is going on, baseball fans? Welcome to season 3, episode 7 of This Week in Baseball presented by Diamond Digest. I am your host, Jordan Lazowski. We got a small crew today, small but mighty. 2 Jordans on it, and a Sam. Sam Hicks-Jirkans and Jordan Miller. Gentlemen, how we doing today?
Respectable.
It's a good answer.
Been better, but holding up.
Also a respectable answer. I think that's a fair answer as a White Sox fan.
I'm alive. I mean, that's where
I'm here. It's been better. It's been worse. But got a good show for you guys. We had a lot going on in terms of, I think as we were putting together our rundown, the managers are kind of the main topic this week that we'll be hitting on. We'll, of course, let our crew kind of start with, what are their big takeaways from this past week? Talk a little bit about Walker Buehler, Aaron Judge, and what they're going to be watching this week. But certainly, as we get into it, I think the managers are the big topic this week, and I think it'll be some interesting conversation. So let's get into it. Let's start with the standings. So this is as of Sunday afternoon. If the season ended today, here's what the standings would look like. In the AL East, the Yankees have really pulled away, been the best team in baseball. I don't think that's any surprise. 8.5 games over the Toronto Blue Jays for second place in the AL East. The Minnesota Twins, 3.5 games up on the Cleveland Guardians in the AL Central. And in the AL West, the Houston Astros, also probably no surprise there, 8 games up over the LA Angels, who finally won a baseball game recently. So that's good for them.
Just one.
Just one. In the NL, the Mets sit above or atop the NL East by 5.5 games over the Braves, who have won 10 in a row. In the NL Central, this is actually the second closest of the divisions. I take that back. The St. Louis Cardinals lead the division, 1.5 games over the Milwaukee Brewers, who have lost 8 straight games. And the NL West, no surprise, the Dodgers, the top team out there, just a half game back are the San Diego Padres. So that is the closest division, followed by the NL Central. A couple of very interesting teams this week. In terms of some interesting winning streaks. I know at one point over this past week, every single team in the NL Central was on a losing streak. So very different divisions and very different teams currently. I'll let you guys go and kind of talk about, what are some of your big takeaways from this week? Some of the big things for maybe a specific team, specific player, what have you. Let's go from there.
Joe Girardi was the problem is my new favorite narrative.
Shocker.
Because let me check. Like their manager. After they went 22-29 with Joe Girardi. They have gone 8-0 since then. They have not lost a single game in the post Joe Girardi era. And that is just, that's going to probably go down as one of the best decisions in baseball history if they can make the playoffs.
That's one of those ones where you have to sit back and be like, what was the issue? And maybe, again, you'll have to see over a longer stretch of time. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting that. It's an 8-game winning streak. I get that, right? Or I get that.
Those happen.
But I'm not going to put that much stock into it at the same time. There's plenty more season to be played. But the initial results, kind of what you're saying, like, what had to be going wrong in that dugout for this to kind of be the immediate reaction to kind of what's happening here? It's an interesting question.
I'm not going to look over the game logs, but it might just be like just getting the most out of his pitchers. Because if we look at like their biggest win, which was their 10-0 win a few days ago on the 8th. If we do like Nola went 8 because he can.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's something Aaron Nola can specifically do. And I feel like Joe Girardi would have been like, we'll take him out after 6. Cut our losses. And I think the new manager, Rob Thompson, I think is going to be a lot more risky. And I think that's kind of what, when you have a questionable bullpen, keeping the starters in is, I think, maybe a big part of it.
That's fair. And I know we know Girardi has. The only reason I kind of push back on it's like, well, Girardi has had longer leashes over a long stretch of time. I think one of the biggest downfalls for him a lot of times was leaving, for example, Aaron Nola in too long in ball games. It's going to be an interesting thing for the Phillies over the course of the season to see, what changes. What about how the team performs in a bigger, grander stretch in terms of what he's still got about 100 ball games left. So you'll have more time to determine it. What was the difference? Kind of like, what can you see pre and post Joe Girardi that ends up being the difference? And it's going to be kind of like a final analysis on, I guess, Joe Girardi in terms of now a team has changed midseason and now they're winning. What were you doing wrong? Exactly. What were you doing wrong? So it'll be an interesting thing to take a look at. I'm very curious to see at the end of the day how the Phillies end up. I think when you're sitting there, you won 8 straight games, not 9 straight at this point now, and you're still sitting 8 back, you got a road to climb. Don't get me wrong. Especially when you got the Mets and the Braves above you now, but still, even if it's not a playoff team, you'll still have to take a look and be like, what was the difference here? So
7 out of their 9 starters have OPS plus is above 100. And among their starting pitching, 3 of them are above average by ERA plus. That team was going to put it together.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's somewhat coincidental. But on the other,
yeah,
like
that's kind of how I felt. I'm like, you have
are good,
right? They're a good team. They were just maybe it's more so again. Maybe it's just a stifling of the talent you have. It's going to be a long-term question. I'm curious to see how it ends up.
I don't know how I'll check how old Robin Thompson is, but Joe Girardi's old in a somewhat young locker room.
Right.
So maybe Rob Thompson is in better touch with today's 30-year-old youth.
Well, we could all use a manager like that in our life. And I kind of think that's the perfect way to segue into. I don't want to talk about it. That's Jordan. You're on this show. You're going to talk about it. Tony La Russa has had himself a week. The White Sox have had themselves a week in general. And the reason it's such a perfect segue is, as Sam laughs at us.
Low White Sox.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at not just the week, the season this team's had. It's kind of, talking to Sam, you bring up the younger clubhouse, and it's maybe it hasn't been a clubhouse issue for La Russa and the White Sox, but you look at it, you're 6 games out, 27-30 in a terrible division. So you're not buried by any sense of the word. And you're not going to sit and sell because you're 6 games back in the AL Central. Probably not a good idea.
And you have the easiest schedule
remaining,
and the Twins have the second hardest schedule I've heard. So it's there's no reason to completely jump off the bridge, but what you're watching just keeps giving you that notion that it's time to give it up.
But you watch a guy intentionally walk someone. Let's review Tony La Russa's week. Let's start with there because this is This Week in Baseball. This is a recap. Let's recap this week. So, Dodger series intentionally walks Trey Turner to bring up Max Muncy to face left-handed Bennett Sousa of the White Sox. 1-2 count intentional walk leads to a home run because Max Muncy has incredible splits against left-handers. And you had 2 strikes on Trey Turner. Tony La Russa obviously referenced Turner's above-average performance against lefties with 2 strikes. That is not that's not statistically incorrect by his means, but more so the rest of the story was that, that's still not as good as Muncy. Proceeded to the entire team lose a 5-0 lead on Saturday against the Texas Rangers and get booed by the 8th or 9th inning or 10th inning maybe. And if you were either watching or listening to the game, the Fire Tony chants were very audible, both on radio, how I happen to be listening to it, and on the broadcast, which I watched back later. It's loud. Tony's addressed it, kind of just taking responsibility for it. I'm going to ask an outsider's perspective first on this one, Sam, before I get more from you, Jordan, because I kind of feel like we'll probably be on the same page as Sox fans.
Probably.
Where do you view, as an outsider, what's the breaking point for Russa at this point? Like, where do you step the line and say, we're done here. We can't do this any longer?
This is a 78-year-old man managing one of baseball's youngest teams. He should have been fired after last season. I don't care how good they were. But then he's great friends with the owner, so he's around for a while.
I mean, it's a 3-year deal, so this is the second year of a 3-year deal, and it's a legitimate question because when fans respond like that, it needs to become at least a legitimate question of, what's your breaking point? I'm not advocating one way or another.
I'm not going to get fired.
And exactly. It's kind of more so you're not going to get fired. But
Tony La Russa might step down.
Exactly. Is it a step down situation? Is it an after the season situation? And it's a manager who has had a history and a career of success trying to bring it to the modern day. And we're seeing guys, and this is why it's kind of the whole narrative of the podcast. Joe Girardi, Joe Maddon, Tony La Russa. 3 Hall of Famers in their own rights for things they've accomplished in different eras of baseball. You had Joe Maddon completely change the game with the Rays. You had Joe Girardi just leading Yankee team after Yankee team. And you had Tony La Russa, who had taken some not-so-good St. Louis ball clubs deep into the playoffs and won it. These are guys in their own right who have experienced a lot of success in this game and should be applauded for it. That being said, the game is not the same today. And I think you're starting to see, it's not just a Tony La Russa problem right now. And it's not only a Tony La Russa question. It was a Joe Girardi question. It was a Joe Maddon question. It's going to be a question for managers around the league. Like I read something about asking, who's the old Tigers manager?
Jim Leyland.
Jim Leyland, thank you. Jim Leyland got questions about it. He's like, I think it would translate, but I'm also 77 years old. The wear and tear isn't going to respond. It's like these guys think they can not play, but manage the players today and manage the game today. And they might be able to handle the players, but it's the game now you're starting to worry about. And that's where it all kind of comes back to me. It's like, I don't know. I'm not in the clubhouse. I don't know what a change will make, because you have one example in the Phillies where it's an immediate change and it's an immediate turnaround. And you have a team like the Angels who are still scuffling even after firing Joe Maddon. It's a difficult conversation to have because you're not guaranteed any further success making a change like that. And I think it's taking a step back and being objective about it is a very important thing to do, especially when you're talking about firing a manager. Jordan, your thoughts?
Yeah, first things first. I still would want Tony gone. I mean, it's one thing that has to be done regardless, because he shouldn't have been hired in the first place. We all know that, Rick Hahn, that wasn't his choice. He was, Jerry superseded him and chose the manager for us, and that's what we were to deal with. So, yeah, we don't know if it fixes the problems, because, they have injuries. Yeah, they have guys that are performing below their baseball cards for sure. But I don't really know what guys like Shelley Duncan, guys like Miguel Cairo, Jerry and Aaron even have to say about their baseball philosophies. I never hear them talk. I don't know if Tony doesn't listen to them. I don't know what the hierarchy really is. Does he take their advice? I don't know. So, it would be nice to see what these other managers who have not been here with the Ricky Renteria area. I don't care about Daryl Boston, Joe McEwing. They've been here since the Ventura years. I want to know what these newer managers, newer coaches do and what their philosophies are. And I think we would see that if the Russa was to step away or get fired. And I would think that might be something there, and these guys might have more reign and more input to see if they can put together better lineups, make better bullpen decisions, um, all those kind of things.
And I mean, you see it in the past 3 days. The lineups have looked awesome for the White Sox.
Yeah, they've been better.
That's what. So it's like you're. It's not like you're capable, but it's like you know what your best lineup looks like. And now, part of me is like, okay, let's just assume the front office is still staying out of this. I think I don't know what that assumption is. My assumption is Tony La Russa is going to write his own lineups. It almost feels like now you again, assuming the front office has nothing to do with these lineups, nothing to do with anything like that, you're starting to feel a sense of urgency out of it. Now you're not mixing and matching with your lineups, getting cute about trying Leury Garcia as your leadoff hitter. You're not trying to get cute anymore. Now you're at a point where you're 6 games back in June. Like you're running out of time. And I think you're starting to sense it in terms of the fan response, how Tony La Russa has responded to some of the media questions about decisions he's made and the eventual booing that came in the Fire Tony chants. And you're seeing it in the lineups. I think you're starting to see a sense of urgency. You know, fans are wondering when's too late. It's always too early until it's too late. All those kinds of sayings. You're starting to see now there might be a bit more of a sense of urgency. And this team is too talented to be 27-30. It really is the hardest part of all of this. They are too talented to be that under expectations. And it's a frustrating place to be.
Yeah, I think an interesting juxtaposition is that you have these guys like La Russa and Girardi, who, why am I echoing? That clearly aren't translating. But you have a guy like Dusty Baker, who's from that same era, and the Astros are amazing.
That's a really good point. And that's usually the counterpoint when you talk about like older managers not like the common talking point. It's, and I'm being very much generalizing here. It's the older manager can't relate, can't understand the game today. But then you have a guy like Dusty Baker who has absolutely figured out in Houston. You figure like, what is he doing differently? What is he trying differently? It's a very difficult question because you can't just put the blanket statement of no person over X age who's done this in X era can't coach in this era. Like you can't blanket statement it because of guys like Dusty Baker.
The thing with the Astros, I think, honestly, is they just have a really good team. They have a really good org, and they know how to develop players. I know they had their cheating scandal 5 years ago, but they know these players are actually good. Jose Altuve is good. Jordan Alvarez just got paid. He's good. Kyle Tucker is good. They have a really good core. They replaced Correa with Jeremy Pena. He's good. They have pitchers. Valdez, Garcia, Verlander is like pitching like he's 25. He might win the Cy Young. Might start the All-Star game. Like they are good. So Dusty Baker's not even really do anything. They have a good team. That's the thing. There's no imperfections. I mean, the Sox got player development issues, front office issues, Phillies. The bullpen's not that great. The Angels, the pitching's not that great. But the Astros had a built team, top to bottom. So the manager doesn't matter. So that's what I think. I mean, I'm not watching Astros games. I don't hear Dusty Baker talk or read articles about what he's saying, but that's what I see just from the outside looking in, that they just have a really built team and a really built organization regardless of the cheating scandal they had 5 years ago. It's just really good across the board.
It's actually a very fair point. You know, is your team basically idiot-proof, where the three of us can go fill out lineups and be like, yeah, you guys got this. You go have fun. Like, yeah, I know what the lineup should look like. Go have fun. Go win 100 ball games, and I'm not going to have anything to do with it.
Yeah, I thought the Mariners would win that division, but the Astros are still churning. The Mariners have performed.
I would have to think. Speaking of those idiot-proof teams, those were how that's how La Russa got good. Like that's how La Russa got his reputation with those amazing Cardinals teams. Girardi's Yankees teams were idiot-proof, and they made Hall of Fame careers out of it. So why the double standard? Like, we're like, oh yeah, Joe Girardi was so good when he had every big-name free agent at his disposal, Robinson, Cano, and like Mariano Rivera on the same team at the same time, and Derek Jeter.
Mhm.
And we were saying, oh no. Dusty Baker, with his only like 6 above average starters in the starting lineup. Like, what's the why? Like, what's the why were we judging? I feel like we're judging Dusty harder than those guys from those other eras.
Yeah. It's an interesting point. It is, and I think it's probably my thought is it's probably because everything's so much more magnified now. It's so much easier to run your mouth on Twitter, and we've all done it too many times. Run your mouth on Twitter, think you know better, and see something you don't agree with, and then respond to it in kind. And I think you're seeing it from all of these guys, and you're kind of just saying you're giving the blank statement of, well, whatever. This is a bygone era for them. Like, you kind of look at them. You look at the resume, not the underlying underneath it. I get what you're saying, and I think it has a lot to do with being a different social media led era, to be honest with you. But it's an interesting question. I don't know. Do we think Girardi or Maddon get managerial jobs ever again, or is this kind of the end of the line?
Maddon does, Girardi doesn't.
I agree. Girardi had that cushy job at Developing Network, and I think that's where he should stay.
Yeah.
Maddon, I could see it. I don't want him on the. I don't want it to place. I don't want it to be LaRusso's replacement, but I could see it.
I'm trying to figure out where's a good place for Maddon. Like, I would agree. There's probably still a place for him in the game. Where would you put him? I'm trying to think. I don't know.
I think Maddon, like, I feel like a team. I don't want to see. Maybe like I want like a bad small market team. I feel like could use Joe Maddon.
I just
You
can't.
have to at least be willing to, and you have to work with people who are at least willing to be innovative.
I mean, I feel like you look at what he did with those Rays teams.
Yep, exactly.
And I feel like he's taking like with like all those like I mean that was a pretty young team. Like the Orioles with like Rutschman and Mountcastle and Grayson Rodriguez. You feel like okay, you could do something similar there maybe.
Baltimore is actually a really good answer. I didn't think of that. That's an interesting answer. They're on the up and up, so maybe they won't feel the need to make it. That's an interesting answer. I have to give that more thought.
Yeah, Baltimore looked kind of sneaky good this year, so that maybe.
Yeah, and I think maybe there's no. I mean, it depends on, do you trust this person that you've had running your rebuild to run your winning team? We've seen poor Ricky Renneria been kicked out of 2 teams on both sides of Chicago that, hey, we love you for your rebuild skills, but we don't think you're the guy to lead this team when we're good. So you wonder how other teams view their own managers in that right, especially the rebuilding ones. It'll be interesting. Poor Angels, though. Poor Angels.
I swear, if Mike Trout retires without a ring,
I'm gonna go with the hot take that he probably will, because he's signing that Angels deal. He'll get back to the playoffs. I don't think they get shut out for the next however many years.
or if Ohtani retires without a ring.
It's probably more likely Ohtani retires without a ring, because Ohtani will probably not be back with LA after his current contract.
No.
Yeah, Ohtani wants to go.
Ohtani's going to get paid big time elsewhere. Trout, locked in.
Future New York Yankee Shohei Ohtani.
Oh, my God. I'll stop watching baseball.
Maybe the Dodgers.
Okay.
I would stop watching baseball in either of those.
Don't act like those aren't the only 2 teams that can afford him.
That's half the problem. Yeah.
If I am Brian Cashman and I see Shohei Ohtani on the open market, I am throwing money at him.
Yeah. Do I even let him leave New York?
No, I just keep upping my offer by $10 million every time he has doubts.
Oh, God. Yeah, that could very well be a situation. But that's still down the line. I love their before we move on from the Angels, I love their City Connect uniforms. That's a top 3 City Connect uniform.
I like those too. I mean, I heard people didn't like them, but I'm like, why? They're nice.
We did kind of rag on them last week, I think.
You did?
Actually, no, it was the Rockies City Connect that we made fun of.
See, I like the Rockies though too. I have been a fan of some of the recent ones.
They should have flip flopped those. Have the purple on the jersey and then have the green on the hat. I don't like the green on the jersey. Is that what it is? The green on the
Yes.
jersey. I think it should have been flip flopped. I like the purple. It's just the green. Just like I know it's kind of like the grassy part of the mountain. I get it if that's what they're going for. But I'd rather see the purple on the jersey. They put the green on
Speaking
the
of
hat.
jerseys, Robinson Cano wore a SpongeBob jersey the other day in the minor leagues.
He's
I
the
don't know how to
right?
feel about that guy.
Yeah, he's
It's
in-
weird to see him kind of at the end here.
Am I just saying that because I wrote an article about it? Yes.
Look at you pushing your article.
Yeah.
Did he go to
I
wait?
want
Did he get
clicks.
picked up by somebody? Or did he
He
stay with the
got
Padres?
the Padres took him back
Yeah,
on the
Okay.
minor league.
That's what I thought.
look at you plugging your article. I want to
I-
talk about both the
Also,
Dodgers and the Yankees.
please
a little
edit
bit.
it. It's not up yet.
You know what? Patience is a virtue, Sam. Couple things I want to talk about before we start heading towards the wrap up here. Walker Buehler just has not looked himself all season, and now we're at a point where 6 to 8 week shutdown. And I mean, it's the Dodgers, so the Dodgers probably aren't too worried about it. I guess, the Padres are just a half game back. They're a good ball club. Levels of concern in LA, yes or no? Your thoughts?
They had this guy named Tony Gonsolin on the up and up, so I
Which is
don't like-
exactly why I asked this question.
like, why would in the world would you be like, you know what, Walker Buehler, we're gonna keep trotting him out there and sacrifice precious Tony Gonsolin innings when we could rotate in a new guy and see how he does.
It's an interesting question. I think for the Dodgers, they're probably a little bit concerned about his health, but you're also the Dodgers. You're probably not that worried.
They'll trade for pitching. They'll figure it out.
Exactly. They'll trade for pitching. They'll get what they need.
Future
farm is
Los
still really
Angeles Dodger Tyler Mahle. I'm calling it now.
Is Dustin May close from Tommy John surgery? August maybe? September? I don't know. I don't know.
Later in the year.
Later.
Tyler
never know. He could
Anderson,
be-
though,
Could be something September.
Yeah. Tyler Anderson,
he hasn't
Of
lost
course.
a game yet.
of course, goes to LA, looks good. Tyler Mahle, you mentioned his name as a Reds fan, Sam. I think,
He's out. He's going to LA.
yeah, he's going to LA. And it's going to be, sadly for you guys, it's going to be for cheap, too, after what's been a rough year.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
There's going to be a market for him.
See, here's
Now
my
he-
thing.
People are gonna be-
He'll have a market. Don't get me wrong. He'll have a market. I think the concern is with a bad first half, you feel like, oh, I can fix this guy, but I don't want them to know I can fix this guy. And they clearly don't know how to fix this guy. So I don't want to tell them I can fix this guy. So I'm going to lowball you.
You know,
Hey, the Cardinals
So do you
traded
think-
for
do
Lester
you think
and
every front office is that smart?
I think any front office that trades for Tyler Mahle is that smart, yes. If the Reds could fix him, they would have fixed him by now.
I think Luis Castillo is getting traded as well. So I think
He'll get you the haul he deserves. Don't get me wrong. He'll get you the haul.
I want a top 10 prospect for him.
That's a rough ask.
I don't care if it's a rough
fucking get
ask.
that.
I
You might get a
want
top 30.
another young player to ruin.
You might get a top 30. Top 10's
Yeah, but Castillo's
That's
been like the one bright spot on the team. I don't want him gone, but he's leaving. So
speaking of guys leaving, I want to ask about this too. Aaron Judge, 24 homers, just absolute animal right now. Free agent after the year. We're going to start the free agent talk already because you know he's going to free agency.
it's June.
We're going to start it already. I want to revisit this so many times and get so many predictions and see how they change throughout the year. So I want to start with your free agent prediction for Aaron Judge, where he goes, how many years, how much money. Keep in mind he's in his 30s. Is he? I think he's in his 30s, right? He's
He
31.
just turned 30 like
He
last
just
month.
turned.
Remember,
All right.
he's the same age as Mike Trout.
All right, so you know what money Mike Trout got. You know how many years he got. Yeah, this is his age 30 season. And the man has 24 bombs already. Insane. Where's he going? What's his number? Sam.
I don't think the Yankees let him leave. They will throw money at him until he agrees to stay. However, I think what also could happen is that we get a Cano situation. You get this great player, early 30s. Yankees don't want to give him more than like 7 years. And some other team gives him a 10-year overpay. You're thinking, how could you overpay for Aaron Judge? I don't trust him. I don't trust his longevity.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe like a smaller team could get him. But my prediction is still going to be Aaron Judge goes to the Yankees, 8 years, $250 million.
8 years, 250.
Yeah,
I like that number.
front
off
loaded.
like 7 for 230. That's like very close to the same thing.
I like that number though.
I mean, that's a Rendon deal. Judge will get more money than Anthony Rendon.
You'd think.
It might be the same AAV, but he's going to get more money.
Jordan, your thoughts?
I don't know where he goes. I do like, the 7 to 8 years, 240, 270, probably max. I definitely think he stays with the Yankees or maybe goes West Coast. Maybe the Giants sneak in there. Maybe like some great team like the Rockies who threw all his money at Chris Bryant doesn't play. Like he may just want to go somewhere and just get paid and doesn't really care about winning. He might go to some bad team. I mean, heck, I love him on the White Sox, but Jerry's not paying him, so I already can forget that. But I'm just saying, like, he can. You never know. I mean, he doesn't have a ring yet, but he may go to some bad team because they'll pay him a ton of money. He doesn't care.
Aaron Judge on the White Sox.
He's a California kid. If he leaves, I think it's going to be a San Fran.
Yeah, that's why I brought the Giants.
That would be a cool dark horse, San Francisco Giant Aaron Judge. That would be a fun one.
I mean,
I would like that a lot.
That's why I brought up the West Coast.
I would like that.
Get paid.
It's like how we can't talk about Carlos Rodon with you as host. We can't talk about any Giants, if any free agents going to the Giants with Diego as the host.
Oh, you can talk about Rodon at this point.
Okay.
I'm on to complaining about other things.
New complaints.
I've said my piece.
And how about that Cy Cease narrative?
Always strong.
But Michael Kopech's a better narrative.
Michael Kopech has been phenomenal. Don't get me wrong.
I just hope he's not hurt.
Cy Cease remains the agenda. Cy Cease always. Someone else can take up the Cy Kopech agenda. I'm not taking that one.
I'm taking up the Cy Kopech agenda for 2024.
You should, because I think he's awesome and he's going to be awesome.
That's Andrew and Connor Egan's job to take up Cy Kopech.
So someone else can take up Cy Kopech. But let's start wrapping up. Well, like I said, we're keeping it shorter this week to kind of focus on our managers. But I also want to know what you two are going to be watching this week. Our typical what to watch for segment. And I will start with Jordan.
I am curious to see what Lance Lynn looks like at his first start in Detroit versus Detroit. It's a little homerish going White Sox, but that's what I've been watching. But I'll be interested to see what Lance Lynn looks like. I remember his last start in Charlotte, he gave up 7 runs. But different environment there. They got the pitch clock. They got the automatic strike zone. Veterans never seen it before. You never know if it's an issue. He's coming off a knee surgery. Tigers are very bad, so it's hard to judge a first start if he has a good game. But that's what I'm looking forward to. He hasn't pitched all year, and he was third in Cy Young last year, so that's what I'm looking forward to seeing him pitch.
Sox might lose Michael Kopech for a little bit, gain Lance Lynn. So
Davis Martin, baby, he's gonna come right back up.
I'm a big fan of Davis Martin.
I like him too. He's got a good slider.
He's gonna have some good stuff. He'll be a quality
backup. I don't
guy.
trust those 2 first name guys.
Seems like a great kid. Listen.
It's my favorite narrative.
I didn't hear
name guys are unreliable.
So I haven't heard a peep about him until this year. Like the only pitcher prospect I've been looking at is Sean Burke as the closest guy who's closest to like getting somewhere, and they have Jorge Vera and Christian Mena who are in low A. Like I had no idea who this kid was until this year. He started in Double A. And he came up. He's looked great every appearance he's put in. Yeah, he's a few runs, but he's kept them in ball games, did his job, and he's been. I like what I see from him so far.
Sam, I'm going to let you go right after this, but knee discomfort for Kopech, interestingly enough. Not ankle.
It must have like flared up, blood travels.
So, a little bit more concerning, but still not terrible. So, Sam,
This week in White Sox baseball.
you know what?
I'm
We got 2 of the 3 guys on here White Sox, so we're going to talk about the White Sox.
I'm looking forward to seeing if these win streaks from the Braves and Phillies keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're both on an absolute tear, and I don't care how the Mets have a pretty solid lead. But if those 2 teams don't lose, they might be in a bit of danger going down the stretch.
Yeah. And at least it's shaping up to be incredibly interesting now, which is awesome. I think it's what we had expected it to be, but now we're finally getting it after being unsure if
we all knew the Braves were going to randomly get really good. We just didn't know when, and if it'd be too late.
Right. But, yeah. Another interesting week of baseball to come. And for those of you listening, thank you, as always, for your support. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. Make sure to check out our work on Twitter at Diamond_Digest, on Facebook, and on Instagram, Diamond.Digest. Sam already alluded to it. He'll have an article coming out this week. We'll have plenty more from our writers. Make sure to tune in for those. Diamond-Digest.com. Did I hit everything? Yes, I think I did. Episode 3.7 in the books. Nice job, gentlemen. For Jordan Miller, Sam Hicks-Jirkans, and there's no third person. This is brutal. This is Jordan Lazowski signing off. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your week, and we'll talk to you next time.
Go baseball.
Go baseball. Thanks for throwing that in there.